What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pineda Show, where we talk all things money, real estate, and entrepreneurship. And in today's episode, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, whether it's better to be a real estate investor or be a real estate agent. Stay tuned. So I've done a similar video where I asked, is it necessary to get your real estate license if you want to be an investor? And if you haven't seen that video, you can find it in the description below. And I did that video because many people say to me,
Ryan, I want to be a real estate investor.
Should I get my license first? And we go over my thoughts on that in the other video. In this video, it's a little different. I want to talk about, is it actually better to be a real estate agent or an investor? If you were to pick one of them, which is the better choice? Now look, obviously you don't have to pick one. There are plenty of people who focus on being a full-time real estate agent, and then they buy a rental property here or there, they flip a property here or there. They're a part-time real estate investor. And then you have people who are the opposite. They're full-time real estate investors. They're trying to flip houses, they're trying to buy rentals, and then occasionally they'll be a licensed agent, maybe they'll help a friend buy a house, or maybe they're just using their license to get commissions on the properties that they buy and sell. Both of those are totally fine, but what I want to focus on is, if you were to pick just one, what would you pick and why? So if you're new to this channel and you don't know much about me, my name's Ryan Pineda, obviously, and I was a licensed realtor for about 8 years. I didn't really like it, and I transitioned to the real estate investing side. And I've had way more success investing. We flipped hundreds of homes, I've bought rentals, we wholesale properties. I love the investing side, but I still own a real estate brokerage even though I'm not licensed. So I'm constantly talking and working with my agents, trying to help them out. We're doing deals together. It's a great thing. So even though the real estate investing side has been better for me, it's not necessarily the correct choice for everyone. What I want to do in this video is go over the pros and cons of both so you can figure out what's best for you. So let's jump into the pros. Starting off with the real estate agent, there are a lot of great benefits. The first great benefit is that it's very low risk. You take the schooling, you get your license, there is some upfront cost with that, but after that, there's not a lot of risk. It's not like buying a fix and flip property where you could lose a lot of money. Typically, the only money you'll lose as a realtor is just all that money you spent to get licensed. You could throw in marketing costs and all that stuff, but most realtors starting out aren't even doing that. They're either gonna be working at a brokerage under a team, or they're gonna be working their sphere of influence doing cheap ways of marketing. So the risk with starting out as a realtor is very low. The second great benefit to starting out as a realtor is that it requires very little capital. As I just said, you have that initial capital cost to get licensed, and after that, there's not a ton you need. Maybe your brokerage has a monthly fee you gotta pay, but other than that, there's not much capital cost. It's very different than a flip where you gotta come up with thousands of dollars to buy a property. The third benefit is the low barrier to entry. Almost anybody can get a real estate license, and that's both good and bad. It's good because if you're watching this, you can probably go get a real estate license. You don't need a college education. I don't even know if you need a high school education, to be honest. Literally anyone can join. There are far less real estate investors than there are realtors. There are far less people who are jumping into real estate investing because it has a higher barrier to entry. So if you're looking for a new career, it is a great way to start something, even if you're starting from the bottom. And speaking of starting out, that leads me to my fourth pro. It is way easier to start out as a realtor than it is as a real estate investor. You can start making money tomorrow if you have people who trust you and are willing to let you represent them in the purchase or sale of their home. It's always easier to convince someone to do a listing than to take a below market value offer. It also gives you the ability to represent buyers. When you're a real estate investor, you're not representing buyers, you're just trying to buy. You are the buyer, and you're a buyer looking for really good deals. Whereas a realtor is finding buyers who are fine paying market value for properties. So it's much easier to start out as a realtor. The last pro for being a realtor that I've touched on is the networking effect. So when you're starting out and you have a sphere of influence, that's great. You can now start hitting them up and try and get business that way. When you're starting out flipping or investing, you typically don't have a sphere of influence. There's not people knocking on your door trying to give you good deals. You gotta go figure out a way to get those good deals. It's not easy. So if you're a really good networker, you can become a really successful realtor. Honestly, that's what the most successful realtors are. They're the ones who build relationships and network the best. Now let's hop into the pros of being a real estate investor. The very first thing, and you guys are probably thinking this, is that it can be much more lucrative. If you are flipping houses and you're making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on a flip, that's a lot more money than a typical realtor's gonna make on a commission. Now obviously, every market has different price points. If you're selling multi-million-dollar homes as a realtor, then you're gonna be making big time commissions that far outweigh flip profits. But that's not true for most places. And honestly, even when you get into those really expensive markets, there are people still flipping and developing homes, and they're now making hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars on these flips. So even in an expensive market where you can make big time commissions, you still can probably make a lot more money flipping and investing. Second benefit of being the real estate investor is the long-term wealth. So flipping builds active income. It gives me cash today, it allows me to live my life and do other things. But when I buy rental properties, I am able to build long-term wealth. And we've talked about on this channel why rental properties are great. You can get cash flow, you get the benefits of appreciation, but the big one is in 30 years when you pay off that mortgage, you've got a free and clear asset. That's building you big time wealth in your net worth, but then you also have a property that is gonna give you great cash flow because now you don't have a mortgage down the line. Being a realtor does not provide that. As a realtor, you know you're only as good as the last house you sell. It's very similar to being a flipper. You gotta constantly look for that next client, that next deal, whatever the case may be. So unless you actually own a brokerage that runs itself and you're making passive income through the brokerage, or you're the head of a team who's doing all the work for you, you're never gonna have truly passive long-term wealth unless you start buying rental properties. So being a real estate investor is huge on that front. The third reason real estate investing is great, and this is actually my favorite reason, is that you are the boss. You're in complete control. You get to decide if you're buying this property or not, what kind of finishes you're gonna put, how you're gonna sell it. You're in control of all aspects. For a realtor, that's not so much the case. Your client is the boss. They're in control of what happens. If they don't wanna buy that house, even though it's a great deal and it fits all their needs, there ain't much you can do about it. And that's what frustrated me as a realtor. My first year as a realtor in 2010, properties were at all-time lows. Now, obviously back then, I didn't realize the significance of the time we were in. I think if we all could do it over again, we'd buy as many properties as possible. But even then, as a 21-year-old realtor, I was frustrated with my clients. I would show them houses, they wouldn't buy them, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it because they were such good deals in my mind. And I was right, but I was a 21-year-old realtor with no credibility. And that made me hate being a realtor, realizing that I'm not in control. My client's in control. I could do all the right things, show them all the right houses, and they still choose not to buy. And so I realized I had to be the boss. I had to be in control of how much money we were gonna make, what kind of houses we were gonna buy, and that's just how I operate from here on out. I will never get my real estate license again because I do not want to represent clients. That got kind of dark, but you get my point. The fourth pro that I really love about being a real estate investor is all the different exit strategies. You can buy rentals, you can fix and flip, you can do wholesales, you can do Airbnbs. There's a whole bunch of things on the real estate investing side that being a realtor just doesn't offer. And I love taking a deal and figuring out what's the best way to make money on this deal. Should we flip it? Should we wholesale it? Should we keep it? I love making those decisions. Because when you have a good deal, you're gonna make money. When you're a realtor, once again, it just comes down to your client. What do they want? You can have influence on the kind of clients that you're willing to take, but in the end, they're the ones making the decisions, not you. So I love having multiple exit strategies and knowing that I'm in control and I get to choose how we're gonna do this deal. The last pro that I wanna talk about with real estate investing is the tax advantages. There are so many different tax advantages with owning real estate, and that's one of the reasons that I continue to buy rental properties. Flipping doesn't have a ton of tax advantages, but owning rental properties sure does. And for those of you who don't know, I actually own a CPA company for real estate professionals. So whether you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, go to truebookcpa.com. You can find it in the description below, and we can help you learn about those tax advantages for being a real estate investor. All right, now let's talk about the cons of both. I've already discussed some of them, so this won't take very long. For the realtors, number one, we've already talked about clients. Dealing with clients can be a pain. Showing houses can be a pain. Some realtors really love it. I personally disliked it, so I'm a little biased on dealing with clients. But it's something to consider. The second thing we mentioned was that it's a job. There is no passive income or long-term wealth. Being a realtor is not an asset. An asset is a property that you own. So unless you're using that income you make as a realtor to buy assets, you're gonna always be working. The third thing is, who knows where the industry is headed for realtors? There is so much disruption going on with all the iBuyers, with Zillow, with Redfin, with all of these companies coming in. They're all coming for the realtors. I can guarantee you commissions are gonna continue to be cut. My opinion is realtors will always be around. It's not like they're gonna go away, but obviously the industry is going to change. If I had to give a prediction on what's gonna happen with realtors, I think they're gonna become glorified transaction coordinators. I think we're gonna get to the point where buyers and sellers can sell it all online. I think there's gonna be augmented reality and other things that allow a buyer to just simply walk through a home virtually, and I think realtors will be there just to help them through it. And they'll have to transition from making 3% commission 5% to maybe 1%, but doing more volume. And it's not like they're doing more work if the buyers are already walking the homes. You're not having to physically show the properties. If buyers are already walking the homes themselves and doing all of the legwork, you're just handling the paperwork, making sure everything looks legit. It's not really that difficult. I think things are gonna definitely change in some type of way like that. But nonetheless, being a realtor in the next 10 years is gonna be way different than it's been the last 50 years. All right, let's talk about the cons of being an investor. Very first thing is the risk. There is huge risk whenever you buy a property, whether you're buying it to rent, whether you're buying it to flip, there's always risk. Flip could go bad, you lose tens of thousands of dollars. A rental goes bad, the tenant breaks everything, they stop paying rent, you gotta evict them. There's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong, so there's always gonna be risk when there's real estate investing. Second con is you gotta find money. I've said this before, you don't need to have your own money, but you gotta find money from somewhere. And I've done different videos about how to find money. If you go to my real estate playlist, they will be there. And I talk about this a lot in my online course and my coaching program, so if you wanna get involved in those, go to futureflipper.com. You can also find that in the link below. But nonetheless, you gotta find money to invest in real estate. Third thing is it's harder to find deals than clients. We went over this a little bit earlier on, but it is for sure harder to find discounted properties. I don't care what any realtor tells you, it's much easier to find a client who's willing to buy or sell a home at market value than to go find a seller willing to sell a home discounted significantly. The fourth con of being a real estate investor is the rehab process. Again, I've talked about the rehab process many times on videos, and it's one thing I do not enjoy about real estate investing. The process of renovating a home I'm not a big fan of, but also just the unknown things that come when you renovate. It seems you always find these unknown problems and then it costs you a lot more than you expected. So that's definitely one of the cons of real estate investing. So that covers all the cons. I tried to be as unbiased as possible. As I'm filming this video, I feel like I was definitely trashing the realtors more so than the real estate investors, and I don't want to give that perception. It's difficult for me to be objective because I obviously love the real estate investing side, but I don't want you to think that being a realtor is bad. I do believe you should do both if you can. Having a license is a great tool to make money and also help you in your real estate investing career. I think being a realtor can be a great thing if you are starting out and you don't have a lot of money and maybe you're scared to risk it. You've got to be a risk taker to be a real estate investor. If you're not, be a realtor. You can have a lot of success with very little risk. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you for watching. Do me a big favor. If you like this video, go hit that like button. If you haven't already, go hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification so you get notified every time I release a video. We're putting out content daily. Follow me on all my socials. And until next time, take care.